So have you been on Zoom before?
Yeah, we use these for the Unicorn Society, like business chats and stuff.
Okay, awesome. So you're familiar with it. You can set it to see one person at a time or everyone. So right now there are 13 people on the call. I would expect more are probably going to roll in.
Awesome.
Lunchtimes are hit or miss. This is a pretty good turnout for a lunchtime one. We keep these real loose, just conversation people can ask away. So what we'll do is just in the off chance that someone's not familiar with what's going on with you, I think that our conversation just now is a bit of a clue to it. But just real quick, give a little bit of a background on yourself, where you're currently at, what you're doing, and then we'll open the floor to questions. So
yeah, do we want to go way back? Do you want like the? I'll keep it brief, but I mean, some folks know me from the FitCast, which I've done for going on 12 years now. So that's a long time for that. And for training career, interned at Cressy's way back in '08 after college, then went to Boston Sports Club, did a year in the commercial sector, which I think is incredibly valuable for any new coach in this industry. I think it's always not necessarily a shame, but I think some coaches are at a disadvantage when they go and intern at a real strength and conditioning facility, and they're not necessarily having to fight for their own clients and trying to make it on their own, where a lot of places they're just kind of delegated clients. But that was very valuable to be at Boston Sports Club for a year. And I guess my short story is that I thought I was going to go back and get my master's. I actually emailed, a bunch of, mentors I knew, like Eric Cressy and Mike Boyle and a couple other folks, and said, like, is this the right path? Should I go back and get my master's? It seems to be what a lot of people I look up to have as part of their resume. And MBSC, Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning, just happened to be literally a mile and a half from the Boston Sports Club I was working at. And he's just said, why don't you come down here and let's chat before we make any decisions. So I think I literally went there the next day. Like, I cleared my schedule and basically told Mike I was free, even though I wasn't, because you're not going to turn down a meeting with him. And went down there, and we just kind of were looking over and this was a really impactful moment for me. And I think it's why it's so important that everyone does have mentors and they have people that they can regularly connect with. But just, having, Mike Boyle talking to this kid who was then 22 or 23 at the time, and say, no, this isn't necessarily the most moral thing to do, but how many clients do you think would come with you from Boston Sports Club if you came to work here? I was like, no, maybe like maybe three or four. I got a couple diehards that literally only go to the gym to train with me. But it's like, all right, well, I don't have coaching hours for you. I'm going to tell you that up front. I don't really have anything for you to do, but if you can bring some clients over to the gym, eventually some hours will open up. And that was a no-brainer to me. I literally, he said, go home and think about it. But I think I literally emailed him as soon as I got back home. Like, I drove home, and as soon as I got home, I emailed him and said, yeah, let's do it. So I gave him 2 weeks at Boston Sports Club, brought a couple clients with me. And then that journey led to not only coaching there, but co-founding Body by Boy Online, which I still run, MBSE Thrive, which is our licensing stuff that I still do work with, co-founded the Certified Functional Strength Coach certification and built up the educational platforms for that and how the logistics all worked. And, while doing all that and coaching at MBSE for 8 years, I think 8 years along, if you guys don't know Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning, or even I think it's the same can be said for the fitness industry. 8 years is a long time to be in one place. The gym industry has some ceilings built in, and the only reason why I think I stayed at MBSC so long is because there was just another project to work on, like every couple of years, another new challenge and another new revenue source, so you could continue to grow not only professionally but financially. And I think there was just kind of a point where, yeah, we did some really great work there, and those guys are going to continue to do awesome things with that stuff. But it was kind of time for me to kind of go do something else and see if I could go out on my own and do something, kind of my way, I think is the best way to put it. So I looked for a space near my house after I sold my stake in the CFSC, and wasn't sure what I was necessarily going to do, but I just had this space that popped up near my house, like 5 minutes from my house, in an area that doesn't really have these industrial complex type places. And the price was right. The logistics were right. The area was lacking in any, there's literally nothing like what I do within 10 miles minimum. So I decided to be a crazy person and open a gym. So that's where you see me right now. I'm at Allied Strength in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And this is most of what I do these days. Sorry, that was a little bit longer than it probably should have been. Apologies.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect. So anyone want to jump in with questions?
Yeah, please.
Yo, Kevin. So is Allied Strength, you're a one-man band right now, you said, right?
Yeah.
So are you semi-private?
Yeah, so what I do is I have 3 core offerings. I have small group training, which is, if you can, again, let me see if I can give you a little bit of a brief tour so you can see the layout of my space. But this basically allows me to train 8 people at a time. 9 people is getting a little tight. I could do 10 in the jam. But the business, kind of the business services that I have are group training, which is adult group training up to 8 people. I do sports performance group training for athletes up to 8 people. And then I do personal training. And like kind of before the call got started, didn't necessarily want to do personal training. I think we've all kind of got to the point where, semi-private makes a lot more sense, not just financially for the people that we're going to coach, but also it helps us kind of increase the revenue for that hour. But I basically put like a price point of $90 an hour for this area. If people want personal training, because I think the average home value in the city that I live in is like over like $1.2 million. So there's just people that want personal training. So opening up, I'm not going to say no to anyone that wants to do, personal training or anything like that. So I kind of decided to offer that a little bit begrudgingly, but it's actually worked out pretty well. It's like almost half my revenue right now.
The one-on-ones.
Yeah.
And then I assume you do some sort of like FMSE assessment type thing before people are hopping into their semi-privates and all that jazz?
No, I do nothing. So basically this is kind of something that I carried over from MBSE a little bit. What I will do, if someone is going to be signing up for personal training, like one-on-one stuff, what I will do is I will give them a free session, and you can call it an assessment, you can call it an interview, whatever you want to use. But it's basically taking them through what I would be giving them for a program after discussing their goals, getting clear idea of what their goals are, an idea of their training history, their injury history. So in some way that's an assessment. My physical assessment in a real way is, seeing how they move in the warm up. The FMS is a great tool, and it's a great way to screen. And I think in some ways, and again, this is just my personal opinion, but I think sometimes the FMS gets used inappropriately as a selling tool to show people what they're bad at. And the way I like to do it is like, all right, here's some things that we saw in the warm up, some things that they can see themselves. It's not just me giving them a number, but they can see that they maybe lack mobility in a certain area or lack stability in another area, or we're doing push-ups and clearly we're doing push-ups at a 45-degree angle. That's somewhere you said you wanted to progress. You said you wanted to get stronger. So I kind of do the assessment as part of that initial session with the one-on-one clients. If I have an athlete, I always have them come, as long as my schedule allows, have them come with their parent, again, talk about their goals, see what their injury history is and what they want out of the program. And in some of those cases, depending on the sport, I will do a little bit more individualized screen with them. But again, a lot of this stuff, I believe, I'm a firm believer in the screen begins as soon as they walk through the door. You can see how people are walking. You can see how they're leaning. You can see their shoulder, with their shoulder positions, their posture. You can go through their injury history. And for a lot of these folks, especially in the general population, like I could have, someone could be outside the door behind me who's going to come in for an adult group, and I could pretty much list off what their complaints are going to be already. Like we all know what, most adults are going to come in for. It's going to be body composition. It's going to be strength. They're probably dealing with some low back pain or some history of low back pain. They may have had a previous history of knee and hip issues. Usually those joint problems are going to be pretty common in that adult population. And, again, we'll kind of screen them as we go through the workout. And the workout itself is very much like especially for the group training, it is somewhat generalized, but there's progressions and regressions built in for everything. So like you can actually kind of see some whiteboards behind me. So I have 3 stations where there'll be an exercise, which will be our baseline for the day. And that's what we're hoping everyone can do. They can't, we have a regression built in. So like for a, 1 kettlebell single leg deadlift, instead of loading it up, we might do a reaching kettlebell single leg deadlift as a regression. And we might, do a 2 kettlebell single leg deadlift to load it up a little bit more as a progression. So I had some coffee before, so I'm probably firing through a lot of this stuff. But my point is that, no matter where people are coming from, the program adjusts to them. It molds to where they're at, and it continues to grow with them and challenge them as they get stronger. So the way I like to put it is that they're always going to be challenged, but they're never going to be left defeated. I'm not going to be the thing I absolutely hate. And I can't believe it. I still see this. And I still see people that I respect do stuff like this, but they'll basically have, again, it's like with the FMS, again, this is a gross generalization. I'm not saying people do this all the time, but some people say like you have to kind of show people where they're lacking to sell them on your program. And I think that's terrible. I think what you should do is you should show them what they're capable of doing. You should show them almost a glimpse of the future instead of just showing them what they're terrible at today. And that means not throwing a bunch of hard exercises at them and be like, well, clearly you need this program. You can't do a 225-pound trap bar deadlift, or you can't do a chin-up today. Well, yeah, you're 250 pounds and you haven't trained before. Of course you can't do a chin-up. What I like to do is kind of show people a glimpse of the future, show them a glimpse of what that work will get them, what that life will look like the quality of life to alleviate that joint pain, that low back pain they've been dealing with for a long time, getting rid of that, and then helping them get stronger and like hell, getting, making it easier to get up and down off the ground, whatever it might be. So that's an incredibly long-winded answer to your question. But no, I don't use the FMS as a screening tool.
Cool. I have one more, and it's a very short answer.
Yeah, please.
In October, me, Kirk Adams, who's pictured below in this thing, and Will Schluchter, who's in Strength Action, are all going to be in Boston for a few days at Mike Boyle's for some shit.
Awesome.
Staying at Kevin Carr's. If we're close enough, can we come to your gym and like take pre-workout and do curls and stuff?
Anyone who's listening can come to my gym anytime that they want, as long as they let me know ahead of time so I'm here and that the gym is open. But of course, and I'll even preemptively say this. After this call today,
we can be Facebook friends. I got it.
You can be Facebook friends. You guys can. I'll give you guys my number if you need my email. If you need anything after this, please don't ever hesitate to ask if you have any questions, follow-up stuff, or if we don't have time to get to your question today. Just let me know. I'd rather, keep open the lines of communication.
Boom. Thank you.
No, thank you. I hope I didn't answer all the questions with that response.
That was it. We're done. Who else wants to jump in?
I'm going to switch to my water instead of coffee.
Never too much coffee.
I'm going to switch the whole discussion from facility to podcast, if that's all right.
Of course.
And right now I'm actually working with somebody else. We've had a podcast going since, I think, last September.
What
October. Is it? It's called Redefining Fitness. I'm doing it with Greg Vaughn. And he's
awesome.
In Kentucky. And so we've picked topics, discussed it between the two of us because it's the male-female back and forth. Mm-hmm. His ideas, my ideas, they pretty much sync, but we have our own thing. So we've also started interviewing people to kind of break it up. And also it ends up sparking new discussions for us to have so we just did an interview with one of his clients, mm-hmm. and the big thing that came out was fear. So now we're going to do a whole thing on fear in our next recording next week. So I guess my biggest question is, I don't have a big following myself so I'm starting from scratch, mm-hmm. Recreating an online business. I had a business before, stopped it because I moved, and so getting back into it. He has a following because he has a gym, he has a facility, he has an email list. So building an audience, like what are some of the big things or the top things we should be looking to do mm-hmm. to help build our audience?
Who do you want your audience to be?
Well, we have, I really look for, I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for Greg, really is to get the message out to the general public that fitness is really how you define it. It's not based on what the media is saying it is, what, the parameters they think you should be. You should be this certain weight, you should have a six-pack ab, that means you're fit. No, I don't believe that. And I get there's such a, maybe some, maybe some other people on this might disagree with me, but somebody can still be 50 pounds overweight and they may not be their fittest yet, but they're getting fitter. They're creating their version of fitness and they're developing themselves. That's how I look at it. So
yeah, much needed message, especially it's harder than ever to build your audience, but it's also easier than ever. Because the thing that I've noticed, and I know that I'll explain what I mean in a second, but basically, everybody has a podcast today, which was a lot different than when I started doing it like 12 years ago. So I was lucky to just be like the default, it was, and thankfully a lot of people just stayed subscribed over all those years. But the best thing that you can do is have conversations that are different than everyone else, which is cool. It sounds like that's what you're doing. From the discussions, and I'll kind of roll this into what I'm doing right now, because I think it might help, is like the Fitcast that I've done has mostly been for the last couple of years, interviews, one-on-one interviews that I've had with people. What I've noticed over the last few years or so, even more so over the last 6 months, is that my guests are on 5 shows a week now. So they're a lot of the same conversations I'm having. And again, I don't fault people for doing this because it's just simple. It's just logical that they're going to ask some of the same questions. But, when I have someone on one week and then a week later I see someone else had them on and asked almost the exact same questions, I think, all right, well, what's the value their show's giving to their audience? Maybe it's because they have a specific pocket demographic that they're reaching that I would never reach, which is why I always encourage everyone, if you are interested in having conversations, recording them and sharing them, you should absolutely do it. Anyone that tells you shouldn't do it goes back to, I forget who it was, and I wouldn't even mention who it was, but there was someone who, gets asked to be on an interview. It was Eric Crusty, I'll say that. So it was something I disagreed with Eric on, is, basically I totally understand. He was getting frustrated because he was getting asked to be interviewed on shows that had 1 episode or 2 episodes, shows that probably wouldn't exist 2 or 3 months down the road. And more or less saying, guys, I don't have time to be on all these shows. I can't be your first guest. Like, it should be the people that it should be people in your circle, before you email someone out of nowhere and ask for an interview. And basically I guess the point he was getting across is like, not everyone should have a podcast. And I completely disagree. There's probably a dozen people I've helped literally set up the settings on their software to get them started recording podcasts, because I believe so much that they're going to have specific people that I would never talk to, and that there are 7 billion people in the world. There's plenty of people to share this information with. So what I would say is, number one, focus on doing something slightly different than everyone else. And that could be just, again, leveraging your partner's audience for the time being. Leverage the audience that he has for his gym, because those are probably going to be some of the most dedicated people that ever listen to that show. They will also be the ones that tell their friends to listen to the show. Hey, you guys got to listen to this episode on fear that I heard the other day. You're like, this is exactly what we were talking about when we got coffee the other day. Trust me, listen to this episode. It's going to click with you right away. And then you have another subscriber. Another way to increase that audience is to leverage things like Instagram to grab clips of the best parts of that episode. Like, this is, again, people will kind of see how, like, I am basically blowing up the format of my show, and doing something completely different over the next couple of weeks. But one of the smartest things I've seen other people do is take a clip from the show, 1 minute, that people can digest, some really great take-home points that people are going to be like, oh, God, I got to hear the rest of that. Also, use YouTube as your second channel. you should be posting every single episode on YouTube. And what you can do is basically take the audio from your show, drop it into Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, iMovie, whatever you want to use to edit videos, and literally just make there be a long screenshot of the podcast art, maybe the art and the guest that you had on, the title of the show, and then just export that whole video and upload it to YouTube, because there are going to be a lot of people that never download a podcast application. They're never going to do it. So those are people you could never reach. But pretty much everyone goes on YouTube, or everyone can share a YouTube link. Or you can take that same video and don't just think I'm going to have a YouTube channel. I'm also going to have a Facebook page. So I'm going to take that same video, because we can't post just audio on YouTube, but we can post in like an hour-long video. So let's take that video, also post it on Facebook, then people can share that video all over the place. And then whether it's the whole show, whether it's the 1-minute clip, you can say, here, listen to the rest of this interview at this link, subscribe here. Even I've gotten to the point where I've actually started putting directions on how to download a podcast application or podcast itself on your phone, because again, 10 years ago, lots of people listened to the show on the webpage because they didn't have an iPod. At that time, we didn't have phones that had podcast applications built into them, like on an iPhone or an Android phone today. And again, some people, you just want to be able to also reach the least technologically savvy people, like the people that I remember back in the day, who I would literally burn the interviews to CDs and mail them to them, because that was the only way they could listen to the show. So they paid me, I think they paid me like $5 an episode, and I just burned the show to a CD and threw it in a bubble mailer and mailed it to them. But that is the best advice that I could give, is first focus on that core audience. And you use the same idea of like you guys have all heard of like a client avatar. Use the same thing. Who's your listener avatar? Who are you making the show for? And then like religiously make that show for that person. That way you're always going to have an audience. The final thing I'll say on this, again, really long-winded answer, so I apologize, but I think this is some really important stuff, is at some point you got to be okay with not being Joe Rogan, not being a gigantic show that has, tens or hundreds or millions of thousands of millions of listeners. And like, is the show still going to be fun for you if no one listens to it? Is it still fun to do, even if it's just you and your co-hosts hanging out, chatting, doing the show, and knowing that, yeah, maybe 50 people at the gym are going to listen to it. It's not going to make you money. It's not. It's again, there's going to be some outliers there, but unless you already have a really strong built-in audience, and again, I won't name names, but again, there's some folks that I've helped out, and I spent lots of hours helping them out, set up shows, that stopped doing it 3 months in, because they emailed me 3 months in and said, all right, Kev, how do I make money off this? And I said, you don't. I have 500 episodes of my show. And even now I make like $1,000 a month off it. And that's like basically barely pays an hourly rate to do all that stuff. It's like a $50 an hour job to do that stuff, which isn't bad. I'm not complaining. And I would do it whether we had the support or not. But make sure that is not something that would bug you. Make sure you'd always be happy literally losing money, because I literally lost money for the first 6 years because I was paying hosting costs. I was paying for a website. You could look at it as an investment in your own education. I think that's the best way to put it. And the opportunity is like, hey, like day one when I started that show was, I want to talk to John Berardi. I can convince him to give me an hour of his time if I say I'm going to share it with everyone else that wants to listen to it. And then that's basically what I did. And that's still the motivating factor today, is I still want to talk to these people. And you know what? We'll just record it. And if people want to listen to it, great. If not, no, it's okay. We still had a really great conversation, and I get value out of that personally too. Right.
No, and I totally get your point about you got to enjoy doing it. It's not about the money for this. And that's, I think, where Greg, I could speak for him on that. It's getting the message out.
Yeah.
And, I kind of look at it as like, okay, people can learn more about me through this podcast. It's just another way for them to learn who I am and get to know, like, and trust me kind of thing. Not so
Absolutely.
much that I'm going to get ads or people to pay anything for the podcast. And it was so much fun interviewing his client last week.
Yeah, right.
I mean, she had me moved to tears. Just thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I'm starting to get tearful. You know, it's
Can
just
you
like,
share that? Do you have a link for it? Is it up yet?
I have to check because he had to adjust the sound for her
Right.
and I and him. So her sound was really, so I have to see if he was supposed to have it done by today, I think. So I'll have
All
to
right.
check.
Email me a link or throw it in the chat if you see it before we're done today.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me know if you have any other questions again after this. I'm always happy to jump back on. So
Don't worry. You'll probably hear from me again.
good. I hope so.
Thank you.
All right. So opening a gym, podcasting. What else we got? As they're banging something outside my gym. I hope that's not being picked up. I apologize, guys.
Kev, I already talked your ear off all day on Saturday. I'm going to bug you again anyways, man.
Okay. Rob bought my dumbbells.
Yes. Let me tell you, dude, the farmer's carries that I had to do with those motherfuckers to get them down to my basement. Jesus Christ.
At least your foot didn't go through your stairs.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, so we have like a piece of like plywood that goes from like the basement like hatch down. And carrying the hundreds, I thought it was going to go. It started really like bowing down. I was for sure it was going to snap any second.
Perfect. Love it.
So when you first started opening up, what did you find were the most successful ways for you to start building attention in your area to get people into the gym? What did your marketing kind of look like, or your prospecting, so to speak? That's
a really good question. It was probably my biggest frustration at the start, as I was putting a lot of time and a decent amount of money into advertising. Before I open up the gym, I had a lot of conversations with folks. I was told about the magic of targeted Instagram and Facebook ads. Like, dude, you could target people just like 5 miles around your gym and only pay for that. Oh, this is going to be so easy. It's not that easy. The first person that walked through the door found my gym on the MindBody app. Thankfully, 1 week before I canceled my MindBody subscription and went with another membership thing. So that's how I got my first member. And a lot of the folks that came into the gym, I'm trying to think, almost all were from word of mouth. The rest were from Facebook.
Gotcha.
It's not been super successful for me, but it's because I think what I've realized is that when the athletes started coming into the gym, the athletes all saw the ads on Instagram. They didn't see them on Facebook. The adults all saw them on Facebook. They didn't see them on Instagram. So I think that is at least a good nugget of, okay, who do you want to advertise to? Different age demographics are probably going to be on the different platforms. Kids aren't on Facebook really at all anymore. That's where their mom and dad are. They don't want to be on there. They're going to be on Instagram. They're going to be on Snapchat and stuff. So I guess probably the first thing I would have done is focus more on my adult stuff and built more of my advertising into Facebook ads. But the thing is, when I started my gym, these doors were closed a lot. The gym was not doing the first couple months. I was doing, you can go back and look at them. Like, they're well-produced video ads. The messaging needed to evolve a little bit. And I think in a lot of ways, I had to make the mistakes that I made at the start to understand how to better mold the message going forward. Because what I was selling at the beginning, I think the way I put it was industry-leading training. Something that, in hindsight, probably scared the shit out of a lot of the people that saw that gym, looked at it and said, I'm not good enough to train there. I'm not, athletic enough, or I'm not in good enough shape to train there. So I think I made a big mistake making it sound, it's probably, looking back, it was probably just on my ego. I wanted to make this place look like the best place to train in the area. It's industry leading. It's not that garbage training they're doing at the, health club down the road. Like, this isn't a trainer that's going to watch you on the treadmill for 20 minutes. That's not what we're doing here. We have the equipment to have you get in a great, 50-minute session that will actually impact your life and not make you feel like you're the exact same position that you were, 6 months after starting here. So what I will say is I didn't do a lot of good at the start. What I did was I did a lot wrong. I tried to make it sound inviting, but I was probably making the wording sound too serious. I was using terms that most folks who were look for a gym didn't care about. Even for the athlete stuff, I struggled with a little bit because with the athlete stuff, it's not easy to sell a sports performance program when it's a 32-year-old going through all the drills. What they want to do is see other athletes doing the stuff that they're gonna, their son or daughter or they themselves are going to be doing. So part of that struggle was just like I can't just go hire a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds to come into the gym. I even had a local organization, this local soccer team whose coach was on board. The team was on board, but they weren't going to come till the summer because they're in school, they're playing club soccer and all this stuff. So the sports performance stuff started picking up when I started having athletes in here. And I started filming the athletes doing the program. And I started sharing that stuff. Because again, I think what sells your program best is not the coach talking about the program. It's the program in action. So it's like a chicken or egg thing. I was lucky enough to have my buddy come in here with a bunch of his teacher friends who weren't really members of the gym for the first video. So we could take a video of what it like the program looks like with normal people in motion. But I think, again, do as much as you can to never focus the advertising on you as the coach. And I wish I had that opportunity. I just had no one in here. So I had to do my best with what I had. But, more than ever, I want probably like a 4-to-1 ratio of people in the gym doing stuff versus me talking about stuff or selling stuff, even about being educational. Going forward, what I'm going to be doing is using the athletes and the members to talk about educational stuff. Instead of me talking about how to progress push-ups, I want to show an athlete progressing the push-ups so they can see it in action, and seeing someone who like clearly doesn't need to do push-ups at a 45-degree angle, show someone. And like now that I have 6 months of video clips, I can actually go through, make a video showing Tara on day one. Like I literally have Tara's day one push-up at a 45-degree angle. And I have now her 6 months later, she's doing push-ups to the ground with band resistance. And I can now show that progression and make that a little bit more of like, this is what push-up progressions are with the member, instead of here's what it's like for someone that doesn't need them anyways. So I guess the best advice that I would give is highlight the successes of the people training at the gym. But again, especially when you're opening up that gym that first time, if you have no one training there, I mean, shit, it's just tough. It's just, you just do the best with what you got. And put it in the release waiver. Literally the drop-in trial form has a photo and video release in it. So like people know, yeah, we're probably going to be filming this session. Like I try to film almost every session now, even with personal training clients, just a clip or two, just so I have a bunch on my phone in a bank in case I need to go on Instagram. So like, man, I haven't posted on Instagram in 2 days. I need to post a clip of someone doing something cool. So people are like, oh, I want to go do that. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
no, it does. It does, man. That's real helpful. And it got the wheels churning a little bit too. Cause while I'll be opening up in a completely different spot, I know that, my coworkers and my boss are pretty pumped about me doing this, even though I'll be leaving. And a lot of my clients that I work with there will definitely come up, just to bum around a little bit on the weekends, but they're the exact people that I can use to shoot
exactly,
demos of them doing different drills and things like that in the new facility.
Right.
So that's helpful. That's really helpful. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And it's one of those things where, I mean, this was, excuse my language, it's friggin' January in Massachusetts. And I was literally spending my days walking up and down the streets like a mailman, putting postcards of the gym in the mailbox. Like I was doing everything I could to get folks in the gym. Again, you know what those postcards said? Industry leading, industry leading training. It was a picture of an empty gym.
Yeah.
So actually I'll literally show you what the card was. I still have some in my bag, I think. I've improved these look, it still says industry leading training. It's like, it's literally, this is what I made literally the first week I opened up the gym. The office wasn't even done yet. I took pictures of the gym to go down on Staples to make up a bunch of these cards so I could start giving them out. But it's just pictures of an empty gym. Guess what, guys? This was not very effective. Even if it did say free trial, didn't work.
Kevin, do you guys, I can't remember because obviously we were only up there for a little bit, but are you around a couple other local businesses, and have you gotten a chance to kind of like network with them and market with them and see if you can kind of put things up? I'm curious as to how successful that is for maybe not just for you, but anybody else in the group too that's tried that. Because we, in Salem, I've got especially where the location looks like it's going to be, is right near a lot of other local businesses. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to work with them. That being said, I also don't know how effective that generally is for people.
Right.
Because we've got flyers for the current gym I work at. We put them in the market next door at a couple of the restaurants, and nobody takes them. They just look at it. And, okay, cool. So,
Yeah, it was one of those things where, you've been to the gym, so I'm basically on an industrial complex, like strip. There's a bunch of businesses. I went to all the local businesses or at least on that street, dropped in. I got lots of like, what the hell is this guy doing here? Even though I was just like introducing myself, saying more or less along the lines of, hey, if you guys ever want to do like a luncheon, if you want to come down here for lunch or maybe you do like a workout, or I can come down there, we can just talk about, how to prevent low back pain in the office, trying to make sure that we maintain like, proper posture and mobility while we're sitting for 8 hours a day. If you guys ever want anything, like I wasn't even selling anything. I was just saying like, hey, if you guys ever think I can help you out, let me know and I'll come down and help you out. And along the lines of, if you ever want to come down to the gym and just try out a free workout, like we're just down the street from you. You can literally walk to us instead of having to, drive to the gym or something like that. And I actually did get some folks through that. I got 2 guys that tried it out. But basically what I was told is that you charge how much? And I charge roughly about $25 a session for adult group training and $90 for personal training. The athletes is like $30 because it's a little bit longer. He goes, well, can you match what I pay? I pay $25 to train as much as I want at the CrossFit. Like, no, it's not what we do. And he's like, well, can I Olympic lift here? I said, no, it's not in the program. So there are going to always be cases where this gym is not the right fit. And while the membership is not huge, what puts the biggest smile on my face is that every single person that trains here is every person that trains here, I think completely fits the mold of who I want here. They're great people. They're people that are unbelievably inviting to people that come to a trial session. There are people that literally, like we have one guy, BK, who's taking the whole gym to a Patriots game. Like it's just some of the most positive people, and the best thing I can say is like we don't have the gym has not attracted. We just talked about CrossFit. This is not a connection to that, but I'm saying we don't have any assholes that train here. The only people that train here are the ones that are literally cheering each other on after they do chin-ups, like cheering each other on after they did, got their first body weight push-up. Like that is who we have here. And if it takes a little bit longer to grow that membership, and we continue to have that kind of person train here, I'm okay with that. And also every single person that signed up here is still here. No one has left the gym since I opened or since they started training here. So I would like to keep that going too. I'm not really interested. That's also why I was talking with Mark Fisher about this yesterday. And he might have kind of convinced me a little bit to do a 6-week program because, there's 2 things. Yeah, sometimes people just want a product to be sold to them. They want something that's a 6-week program. They don't want to think about long-term effort that needs to be put into something. And that 6-week program might be just 6 weeks with someone and then they go. Or it could be someone that trains there for 6 weeks and then signs on for regular membership and they stay there for a very long time. But I'm not really interested in folks that sign up and do a drive-by for a month and then leave the gym. I'm looking at making this place a legit community, a place that people aren't going to be training here for 1 month or 2 months. They're going to train here for the next 5 years and 10 years. And again, I just think that member is so much more valuable than someone that does a 6-week program and leaves. And selfishly, I put so much energy into each new person that comes here. I don't want to put my energy into someone who just feels like, all right, well, I trained here for 6 weeks and I don't want to pay more for the program. I'm going to leave. Like that's, again, something I might change my mind on. But for right now, again, the gym is making money. It's not a lot of money, but it's like $500 a month, which is better than negative $500 a month. And our summer program is going to be gigantic. Again, I've been very cautious with how I've sold the program here, not making it sound like the stuff that I would be grossed out by in both adult group training and sports performance training. I like to be really realistic with the advertising, and I like the results and the members to speak for themselves. So again, that's just me. If I did things differently, I'd probably be making more money up until this point, but it's kind of just a personal thing, and I have nothing against anyone that does 6-week programs, and I think they work really fantastic for a lot of people. I'm just not there yet psychologically, or maybe I'm just being really stubborn about the whole thing, which is totally a possibility as well. Again, Rob, I don't know if that answered your question. Again, I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but hopefully.
No, it answered that question and then a couple others too, man.
All right. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys.
No, it's all right.
A small question, but what headphone microphone combination do you use for your podcast? Like what headset micro?
Not this one. I use for the podcast. Okay. So I will give you my podcasting microphone recommendations. Also, another great point for your podcast. If your podcast sounds bad, no one's going to listen to it because they have other options. If it sounds terrible, they're going to be like, this doesn't sound very good. I'm going to move on. So I'm going to give you the 3-minute podcast, production breakdown to make sure you have a high quality show. One, get a minimum of an Audio Technica. They make 2 microphones that are the same microphone. They're about $65 to $80. They're the I think it's the AT2005 USB and the AT2100 USB. They're the same exact microphone. One's black, one's silver. But they're super cardioid microphones, so they really only pick up what's in front of them. It doesn't pick up all the background noise and all the stuff that's coming around. So like if you went off the microphone, like you'll get really quiet. And they're very good microphones. They're USB, plus they have a headphone jack built into it so you can hear yourself talking. And you can also put your guest's audio from Skype or whatever back through the microphone into your headset. So that's number one. But currently I that's about $60 to $70. I think that's a train going by. That's the minimum I would have everyone use. For your guests, make sure they use a minimum of headphones, because otherwise you're going to get feedback through Skype and you're going to have to go edit all that stuff. Have a minimum of like the iPhone headphones are actually very good. As long as they're not like clacking it against their shirt. And for like, if you're interviewing a woman, as long as her hair's not brushing up against it, you'll be good. What I currently use for microphone right now is a Shure Beta 87A, which is a $250 microphone. Used with a $100, I think it's a 4-site USB preamp that goes into my computer. So it's about a $350 setup. It sounds awesome, and you'll understand why I use that when the new episodes start coming out next week. Because I'm doing much more post-production and voiceover work with this stuff. Basically a huge ripoff of like an NPR type format for this. So, but again, yeah, get that. It's like a Audio Technica 2100 USB or 2005 USB. They're on Amazon for 65 to 70 or $80. Make that a minimum for your setup. And also for your audio editing, get this thing called Levelator. It's a free app that you can download on Mac or PC. It's literally called Levelator. It will help balance what we were just talking about before, Amy, about balancing like the levels in a show. It will actually do a lot of that work on itself, and it'll actually get rid of some background noise. So you can, in literally a drag and drop, like clean up a lot of bad audio that way. But that's my 3-minute like podcast production, checklist. Just do the minimum of that stuff and you'll have a pretty good sounding show.
All right. So Audio Technica, Levelator app, the guest season headphone, huh?
Yeah. Levelator. Yeah.
Levelator.
Yes.
Shure Beta 87A.
If you got the cash, yeah.
Way down the line. And then Foresight USB preamp.
Right. And if you do this stuff in person, what I would recommend is not using one microphone hooked up to a computer and both talking into it. There is it's the Zoom. Zoom is a brand of portable audio recorders that allow you to hook up XLR microphones into it. I have the Zoom. I think it's the Zoom 6 and the N6 or something like that. It's a 6-input Zoom recorder, and you can get these really cheap Pyle PYLE PM58 microphones. Are actually a ripoff of the Shure 58 microphones. They're like almost the exact same microphone, but one's $13 and one's $80. So you can get a couple of those microphones, and that's a good way to record stuff in person if you want to do that instead of going through Skype.
Thanks, man.
We used to recommend those Pyle microphones, but just as a heads up, they will just randomly shut off, and they'll just
By
they just go out. But for $12, you can't really complain. But
yeah, I think I have 8 of them because they're like $14.
Yeah, we used to record videos with them, and no shit, last year I think we were not even maybe probably at this point 6 months ago.
Yeah,
we were 30 minutes into recording a video. We were like, let's see how let's review it, make sure everything's good, and there's no audio. We were like, ugh.
Always monitor. It's the same with that Zoom recorder. I'm always monitoring, making sure the levels are right, and that is.
You only do that once.
Yeah, if you got the money, get the Shure. But even for myself, for the live shows that I do, I use those Pyles, and they're they sound friggin' awesome for $14. It's nuts. And you have a pop filter, for the love of God. If you buy any of these microphones, get a pop filter.
Pot filter?
Pop filter. It's
cannabis?
Like a windscreen.
Yeah, like a POP.
Got it.
Or use what is it called? Leggings. You can use leggings as well if you're running, leggings on a it's the whole thing they used to do in rap videos. They used to get leggings on a clothes hanger and stretch that out so pops would get stopped by the leggings, the pantyhose, before it gets to the microphone. The 80s rap pro tip for you guys.
Oh.
If you want to record some hot tracks in your closet. All right, 9 minutes, folks. What do we got?
You're muted, Kirk.
Before my sports performance guys get here.
Let me try that again. Kevin.
Hey, Kirk, how you been, man?
I've been well. How about yourself?
I made the crazy decision of opening up a gym. I don't know why.
I heard about that.
Yeah, that's weird.
I'm excited. I'm actually going down to Philly this weekend to take CFSC Level 2.
Oh, fantastic.
And I'm going to be staying with Wes this weekend, too, so that'll be exciting.
Good deal. Do you know who's teaching it?
Steve Bigelow.
Oh, Biggs. Tell him I say hi.
I will. I'll do that. You mentioned kind of in the beginning, some of the natural built-in ceilings that are in the fitness industry and how, people don't end up staying in one place for very long. Yeah. Maybe just kind of expand on that a little bit and maybe just, what did you feel you ran into that made you decide to want to open your own place?
Well, I don't necessarily know if that example was good for myself because at the time when I was working at NBSC, I owned, again, a testament to Mike. He gave me a lot of stuff to work on, and I co-owned 3 companies out of that gym. I was working a lot, but they gave me plenty of opportunities there. It was the benefit of being the way I like to put it is, with the podcast stuff, I was very technologically savvy. I spent a lot of nights in high school learning how to use a computer instead of going out and, smoking pop. And so the thing I would say is if you can use NBSC as a good example. A lot of the coaches that are there, they use it as a jumping off point to go do something else because you have a pretty good resume. If you spend 2 or 3 years at NBSC, you work hard and you want to go be a strength coach, whether it be in high school and college or the pros, Mike will write you that recommendation. And also just having that on your resume is going to be really good. Even just as an intern will be good. But what happens is, and there's a couple different avenues people take and again, I won't have my opinion put in this, but some people will go to just coaching people online, which is totally fine. It's not for me. I like coaching people in person. I don't like just setting an Excel file and doing a Skype call. I might do that at some point. But for me, it's way more fun and rewarding to work with people in person. But people will do the online training because it's another revenue source. So there's that. But for a lot of people, if you don't own the gym, if you're working for someone, there's only so many hours you can put in, so many coaching hours, so many personal training hours. At some point, you're going to hit a ceiling on how much money you can make at that place if there are no positions to move up in. So, again, Mike did a really awesome job as a manager and as a what's a way to put it, business partner, to give me opportunities and to give guys like Kevin Carr and Brendan Rurick opportunities to stay at the gym, because otherwise, like, I don't think it's a secret, they don't pay you a ton to coach there and to be a personal trainer. And they pay the same as a lot of other places pay. But at some point you're not going to make as much money as you want. You're going to make like, maybe $60,000, $70,000 a year. And for some people that's enough. For some people it's not. Some people don't want to be waking up at 4:30 in the morning to go into the gym to coach people for the rest of their lives. And I understand that. So I guess the thing is I think for a lot of people, that's why we have a lot of washouts in the industry too. If they're not in it for the right reasons, they end up realizing how much money you can make unless you're an Instagram celebrity, or unless you're someone that has a really high-end clientele and you can bill for it, and you don't have someone else dictating how much you can charge for your training. You usually have to leave the bird's nest. You have to go do something else. So that's kind of what I've meant by there being like a ceiling at NBSC. Is like, there's a lot of people that will stay there for 2 years. If people stay there for more than 2 or 3 years, a lot of them get toxic. We had some people there that ended up not being people you wanted to be around because they were just unhappy. At the same time, they weren't doing shit with their free time. They were sitting in the break room on Facebook for hours at a time, not doing anything. I am someone that likes to work. Like, that's why, again, by the time I was done at Boyles, I was running the CFSC. I was running Body About Bull Online. I was doing the NBSC Thrive stuff. I was still coaching. It wasn't personal training anymore, and still doing the podcast. Like, I think if you don't have a work ethic, if you don't really love doing this stuff, if you don't have the energy or the inspiration to do something new, better, and different, you're going to, at some point, burn out on this stuff. So that's, again, why I say, if you want to start a podcast, fucking sit down, get a legal pad, write down what you want you to talk about, the guests that you want, how you're going to put all this together, and most importantly, why you want to do it. Same thing for distance coaching. I think, no matter what you want to do to increase your audience, to increase the amount of money that you're making, make sure you have a really good reason on why you want to do it besides just making money. And again, that might just be me personally, because if I was financially motivated, I wouldn't be here right now. I would be at Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning, and I wouldn't have sold my stake in the CFSC, because those guys are going to make a lot more money this year than I'm going to make this year at my gym. But, again, doing this has been so much more fun than being on an airplane. And again, we're talking about the CFSC events. At some point, I didn't want to get on an airplane anymore to do another CFSC event. For me, it was getting to the point where it was the same thing over and over and over again, to the point where I was like literally sleeping through those events, not actually sleeping through them, but I didn't really need to think anymore because I knew exactly what I was going to talk about every single time. It's great to meet new people, but I didn't like flying. I didn't like airports. And now I get to work at a place 5 minutes from my house, and I get to coach awesome people who don't have a place like this near them and provide them training that isn't in this area. So again, I don't know if that answered your question, but hopefully there was something in there that made sense.
Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, I always like to hear just different opinions on when it's time to when it's time to, just try to either progress where you're at, or it's time to take that step out of the nest, like you said, or just, just hear different people's perspective of when it was right for them. And hopefully at some point it chimes in that it's right for me too.
Well, the thing that I love about this group and just like seeing all you guys here today is like, obviously everyone's here because they love what they're doing and they want to get better. And at the same time, you have skills, but you want to be as successful as you can be with those skills because you don't want them to just go to waste. And the thing I'll say is like, there's still going to be lots of opportunities in this industry because there are a lot of people in this industry that are in it for the wrong reasons. You can be successful, you can make plenty of money, you can have a healthy and happy life. But if you're ever at the point, and this is why I literally have told like these guys that we had some stuff with at MBSC, and whenever I talk to younger coaches, I say, if you ever get to the point where you're not looking forward to going in and coaching that group, use that as just like a gut check. If it happens again that same week, maybe you're in the wrong industry, maybe you're in the wrong business and you shouldn't be doing this. Maybe you just like to lift and you thought it would be fun to come into and work at the gym every day. If you don't understand the impact that you're having on these people every single day, then I don't know what else I can tell you, because what we do as strength coaches, as personal trainers, as physical therapists, is we make as big of an impact on the people that we see on a day-to-day basis than anyone else that they will ever, see in their life. Because for the folks that I'm working with right now, you're talking about helping an athlete make sure that they don't tear their ACL in the upcoming season. You're talking about having an adult be able to run around with their kids, their grandkids, being able to get up and down out of bed, to be able to sit down on a toilet by themselves and not have to go into a nursing room. That's literally what we're doing. Again, we're going to help people lose some weight. We're going to have some fun. We're going to do some fun conditioning stuff. But at the end of the day, if you don't realize that you are probably going to have as big of an impact on the lives of the people that walk through your door as anyone else in their life, if you can't realize that now, then I don't even know what else to say.
That's great, man. Thanks.
Well, thanks. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too.
Kevin, I added you on Facebook. I hope to see you in October.
What are we talking about? Can you curl the 90-pound power blocks? Is that what we're going to use?
I don't want to get too big.
Don't want to get too bulky.
I read.
All right.
Oh, I love US. I love US.
Even though you have hair now. But yeah.
Hair and no beard, man.
I know, it's weird. It's like the opposite.
It's not staying. It's just that I went up to the bathroom on Sunday. We were getting ready to go do something, and I was like, I either got to trim this beard up, which is time consuming, like shape it, my wife's never seen me without a beard.
It is a little startling.
It's weird for me. It's really weird. And so I shaved it off. And the funniest thing is that I have a 14-month-old daughter, and she ran away from me when she saw me. She had no idea who I was.
Dude, you need to shave the head too. Look at this. Look at these reflections I'm getting from these fluorescents on my skin. Every week on Facebook, I see a new post on how women like bald guys or guys that shave their head, like Jason Statham and The Rock.
I shaved my head for, I think, 7 years, and then I just decided to grow it out in November. So I don't know what I'm doing. I'm having it's not midlife, a 32-year crisis. I don't know. It's not a crisis. I'm just having fun. I don't know. I think we hit stop recording here. Thank you so much, Kevin. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys. And please, if you do have any questions or anything that we didn't get to,